Welcome to the Red Network, where real estate dads juggle the high-stakes hustle of their careers with the heartwarming chaos of family life. Whether you're closing deals, changing diapers, or chasing dreams, we've got you covered. Join us for stories, strategies, and laughs as we navigate the perfect balance between hustle and home. The Red Network, where real life meets real estate.
Welcome to the Red Network podcast. Today's guest is someone who embodies the red mindset of balancing hustle and home in every way. Chase Blanchard jumped into real estate at 18 years old with no college detour, no plan B, and he's been going full throttle ever since. Now 29, he's the managing broker at Simply Homes' Columbia office, where he's been leading the charge for the last 3 years. But Chase's story isn't just about contracts and closings. It's about legacy, loss, and living with intention. He's a proud girl dad to his daughter, Sailor, who just turned 1 last Sunday, and holds close the memory of his daughter, Everly, who would have been 3 this year. Off the clock, Chase is a man of many layers, sports lover, golf junkie, summer farmhand, and yes, wedding DJ. Whether he's helping clients find their forever homes or spinning tracks at a reception, Chase brings the same energy, real, grounded, and fully present. We're diving into fatherhood, finding focus, and staying grounded while juggling the chaos of entrepreneurship. Let's get into it. Chase, welcome to the show.
What's going on, Jason? Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the introduction. That was, I feel like that's an Oscar red carpet rollout.
That's right, man. There we go. That's a ChatGPT special right there. That is my first couple episodes. I was really struggling on I want to make sure that I get a good intro here, and I forget that we've got so many tools at our disposal, and so plug some things in there and tweak it a little bit to help take a little bit off my plate. But I appreciate your time. I know it's very valuable with all that you've got going on.
Absolutely.
We had the opportunity to talk a little bit earlier, so would love to kind of get into it from today. But tell me, what is the Blanchard family up to these days?
Man, well, obviously, I mean, you alluded to it. My daughter just turned 1 last week, and I feel like it was as worse, if not more in depth than planning our wedding, right? Mm-hmm. My wife is God love her. She's an amazing mother, supporter wife and everything. And she went extremely over the top, but it was all worth it at the end of the day. But man, we're over the hump of that. And worst part is my daughter's birthday is the 19th, and then our wedding anniversary is the 24th.
Whew, so expensive month.
Yeah, literally a week apart, less than a week apart. And so very expensive month. So we're kind of over that hump. But man, we're just rocking and rolling, man, trying to keep up with little girl. It seems like it's and every day is a new adventure, a new thing learned, a new thing we need to avoid or not do, or new food that she's into. But other than that, yeah, I mean, obviously me and the market, you're in the market as well, man. You guys do a great job, and it's tough, man. It seems like there's so many, just as much ups and downs of parenting as there is at the real estate market. So that's pretty much it, man. Doing that and supporting my teams when I can. Luckily, my Vols are doing good. I think if I remember right, you're a big Colts fan. They just put a big, huge whipping on my Titans yesterday. I don't know if you can kind of see. That's actually Nissan Stadium right there.
I see that. Yeah, that was not a close game yesterday.
That was not a close game.
We actually had in the Huck House probably the best sports weekend that you could have had. We've got my son went to the Gold Bracket Championship in baseball at his tournament. Daughter won her soccer game. Son won his football game the next day, and then Colts beat the Titans. Michigan beat Michigan State. Both my fantasy teams pulled out a W.
There you go.
I'm riding pretty high on this.
No wonder you're so perky on this Monday.
Exactly. That and coffee, and we're good to go. So
that's it.
But at least you got to win with your Vols, so that's good. You can ride on that.
That's right, man. Yeah. But that's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And I think you touched on it. There's been a lot of peaks and valleys in this market. It's been a weird market for the last couple of years, but I think especially here lately, I tell folks it doesn't seem like it's a neighborhood specific or area specific. It's almost like house to house. I'll have one that will go live, and we'll have multiple contracts come up before we even maybe went to the market, and then I'll have others that are staged very well, very presentable, great price, and you've got some hefty days on market and some peaks and valleys there. And you alluded to it; it's very similar to parenthood, especially young parenthood with a 1-year-old. And there's always learning and opportunities and all of those things. So yeah, that's kind of there's a lot of correlation there for sure.
Yeah, 100%. It's a new day, a new day, to new week every time.
Every time. You got into real estate a little earlier than most. And for a lot of folks, myself including, I know they say, man, I wish I would have got into real estate sooner. And you did. You got into real estate sooner. 18 years old. Tell me about that.
Yes. Like there's literally, there's no physical way I could have got into it any sooner, right? At 18, I was, birthday's in May. I was fully licensed to go by November of the same year. But long story short, growing up, I actually didn't have a father. My father was not in the picture, from early on. So it was my mother, my sister, and my grandmother in the house. So I was the only man of the house. And obviously my mom was a single mom trying to support really, us 2 kids and my grandmother, because she was basically, stayed at home with us. So she could not have to have, daycare expenses and stuff like that. But once she got up on her feet, about my middle school days, entering high school, she started to really, gain traction in her career and make good money and stuff like that. So she wanted to buy a house, from where we were at. And she wanted to give us, a really good house with, as both kids were becoming teenagers, some privacy and stuff like that. And also for grandmother as well. And so she was a single mom trying to, find this 4-bedroom house, 3-bedroom or a bonus room house, and, 2,000 plus square feet. Now this is back, in 2010, 2011. So definitely a way different market then, but still, a challenging market nonetheless for her to do that. So now that I'm a real estate agent now, it's kind of funny looking back. We looked at houses for like 2 years.
Oh boy.
Years. And obviously, yeah. The wonderful ones we love to brag about. But we looked for 2 years, actually 2 different agents. The first one ended up like ghosting her.
Oh, wow.
Like and so we had a family friend that did selling her, and closing on the house that she eventually bought and sold actually just a year or 2 ago. But I went with her to every showing. A lot of times my sister was involved with extracurricular activities or, so it was a lot of times just me and my mom going to look at houses, and I just really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun getting to explore different places, houses, land, obviously locations, because she looked everywhere from Columbia to Spring Hill to Chapel Hill, even as upwards of getting towards the Christiana area and stuff here in local, Middle Tennessee. And so she bought a house, and, fast forward, I graduated high school. I didn't have any direction. Actually had a factory job in Franklin lined up and it was like making $12 an hour. I thought I was going to be the next millionaire because that was big money back then at 40 hours guaranteed. And I worked there 2 weeks. I hated it. I quit. I worked on my buddy's farm the rest of the summer. And one night I just had an epiphany where I was thinking about life and my future. And the family friend that sold us that house, he always told me back then, he's like, man, if you ever want to become a real estate agent, I think you'd be a really good one. And I gave him a call. We talked on the phone for nearly 3 hours that night. And I woke up the next day, put myself through real estate school, and the rest is history. So here I am today, awesome. 10 years later.
10 years already. So I'm sure there's been a lot of lessons learned in those 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a lot of agents that come through here that are both brand new and have been in the business for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Let's say first, agent that's coming in, just got licensed, getting started in real estate. What's some words of wisdom that Chase Blanchard would have for them?
Patience.
Yeah.
Patience and dedication / discipline, is treating it like a job. One of the great real estate agents in our local area, she was a great mentor to me. I mean, the classic thing she said is you got to treat this like a job. You can't sit by the pool every day or only work 1 to 2 days a week. And and I have fallen victim of that. Like I've heard it, and I definitely didn't do what was advertised or what was told to do. And the results show, right? And there's a lot of I think that's what's missing a lot in today's world is accountability. Like,
Yep.
It's self accountability of like, okay, if you put in the work, like it might take a little bit, might take longer than others, but eventually you're going to see the results if you put in the time and the work, and if you don't, like when I've had my down years, I've been really self-reflective of this was a down year. Well, Chase, did you put in the effort?
Mm-hmm.
No, you really didn't, And so that's what I would tell a new agent is that, it probably will take a little bit longer even than, compared to years past, but just continue to do the work, don't get discouraged and, stay top of mind.
Mm-hmm. Stay in touch.
Whichever way.
And you touched on it, consistency. I use a lot of analogies, and two of them I use quite a bit in real estate is it's not very different from the fitness world or the farming world, right? Like you're going to get what you put into your health. If you put crap in your body, you're probably going to have crap, results. And same thing for, farming. If you put in hours of work and consistency and you make sure that you're doing all the right things, and you're probably going to have some pretty great crops. They may not grow as fast as you would like them, but they're going to be there. There may be some outside, factors that you have no control over, and you're going to have to deal with that, and you're going to have a plan for that, but they'll be there. If you don't, if you just post videos about farming and you just talk about farming and you just farm 2 days a week, you might be a little hungry come wintertime. And so making sure that you're being consistent. And I think a lot of it is, you touched on the accountability piece of holding yourself accountable, having a system to hold yourself accountable, treating it like a job, and probably more important as you become a parent that wants to be present, treating it like a business, and then also having accountability around you too, because it's real easy to wake up at 5 a.m. I know I'm supposed to go to the gym and I don't have anybody waiting there for me. So I'm just going to negotiate with myself while I'm half asleep, and I'm going to say, I'll go later. Versus if I wake up at 5 a.m. and I know there's somebody there that's going to know that I didn't show up, and that's going to be a tough conversation later, then I'm going to get out of bed.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the number one thing. I think that you're exactly right. I mean, it's all aspects, but it starts with business too. In the real estate business, I mean, it is doing it this long. It's being self-aware of the time that you put in. The good years follow, the work that's put in, and the bad years have followed the work that wasn't put in, for sure.
And being prepared for both, and kind of being steady Eddie, even keel, making sure that the peaks aren't too high and the valleys aren't too low, and making sure that we're prepared for both. There's a lot of people in this industry that made hand over fist these last couple of years, and we're like, oh my gosh, I've struck gold. Things are going to be like this forever. And every money or every dollar that they made, they spent. And then things weren't the same. And it did go down. And, this is not as fun as it was last year, the year before that. What happened? I can't just put a sign in the yard, and I've got 10 offers, and I get a check in like 14 days. Kind of making sure that you're prepared for those peaks and valleys, the good times, the tough times, and you can turn both of them into an opportunity. I mean, the down times are whenever you can grab market share, and you can really build a business. And then when the up times come back, then all of a sudden you got a greater return because you have more market share. Right. But it takes work. It takes consistency.
Critiquing your experience, your customer experience, your business model, how it operates from day to day, in the down times where you have more time. I mean, that way, like you said, when it does come back, you're already on autopilot. You talked about it earlier. Some of these people, they get busy and stuff like that, and now they're having to scramble, and now they lose connection, lose quality of customer experience for their clients and stuff like that, or have to hire at a complete, chaos and stuff like that. But if you're building for that, even in the down times, you're going to be way more successful when it does uptick, for sure.
It can be, if you're not prepared, it can become very reactionary, which is not I say referable experience all the time. It's not a referable experience for your clients to where they're saying, oh my gosh, Chase is the best. He's got everything set up. He was out of town, or he had multiple things going on, but I still got taken care of. He's awesome. It's also not a referable experience for your family, where they're like, oh man, like dad is crushing it. He's so busy at work, but he's still so present with us. This is fantastic. It's just not really a good environment for either one if you're being reactionary. Yep. And like you said, if you're taking some of the times where you don't have things going on 24/7, then that's when you have to put your systems together. That's when you have to really tweak those. And I'm not a systems person. So this was actually really hard for me because I'm very much, it's a lot easier for me to be reactionary because that's what I like, is like the moving and shaking, and I can make things happen and work. And systems to me are kind of boring, but they're necessary and they're important. And so during these last couple of years, making sure that we're setting those up to where, hey, if we're going on family vacation, I can be on vacation. And it's not going to be at the expense of my clients who are wanting to go under contract on a house like tomorrow or a listing that's going live this weekend. And so having those set up to where you can be a real estate business owner versus a what we call Pop-Tart agent that's just kind of jumping at every little thing that pops up here and there. Really set that foundation up for sure. So
absolutely.
Leading into some of that, like leadership, talking about not only being in the real estate industry, not only being a real estate agent yourself, but then also being a leader. What's that been like for the last couple of years for you?
Man, it's been a lot of fun, but it's definitely been the most challenging thing I've ever done, because, I'm always very fearful too of leading in the wrong way, because, and I think that's what's so unique and cool about real estate, is that it is an individualized business. So, what works terrific for me may not work for somebody else, and vice versa. And so being a leader of people of different personalities and backgrounds and strengths and weaknesses, and those different, an A personality and a B personality and a C personality all come to you asking the same advice. It's not going to be cut and dry. I'm not going to tell them the same thing, every time. It's having to learn and connect and adapt with them to see what I think would be best, in my experience, plus maybe even a little bit, that I'm getting educated on now or learning new. So that's been one of the biggest things. But it's also been super rewarding, some of these newer agents or even, some experienced agents that have joined my office and have had some struggles, mid transaction or a struggle with a particular transaction that kind of hits a little, speed bump with, inspections or something like that, or some type of verbiage or negotiations. And I help them. And they're like, wow, I mean, like, I've never had this before. And thank you so much for, being accountable, answering the phone, and just helping me out. And, I chuckle because I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm glad you're getting that now. But it's really rewarding whenever, we all, I know, Jason, some of these deals were just limping to the finish line,
Right.
And, seeing them get to the finish line and cross it, and then I see the social media post that it's closed or something. I'll shoot them a text and say, I'm extremely proud of you. I know that was a tough transaction, and, and then they thank you and all that. And, that's all cool and fine, but I just love to see them get it to the finish line, succeed and close,
Absolutely. And I think I was talking with a mentor of mine not too long ago, and we were just talking about life and leadership and all these things. And he had mentioned that leadership is not a job, it's a calling, that true leaders are called to leadership. And it's something that they just feel like they have to answer that call. And whenever I talk with people like yourself, you can kind of see that where it's not necessarily an option. Like, I'm going to lead people. I have to. I feel uncomfortable if I don't. And the amount of it's just so rewarding to, like you said, be able to do that on a daily basis and take other people's problems and make them your problems. And what I had to kind of adjust or learn to do is leading is not solving everybody's problems. And, every time I would see a problem, I'd want to fix it. I want to solve it. I'm going to what you need to do. Leadership is helping and training other people to think and how to think so that they can make the best decisions possible. And so where it would be easy, and I'm sure both parties, them and I, would love to take this, what could be 30-minute phone call, and into a 5 and just say, hey, here's the answer. Here's what you're going to do. Good luck. Turning it into that 30-minute call and teaching them and leading them on how to make a decision on how to think, and this is why. And even though it might save you some time right now, just to give them the answer, you're going to help them grow so much more as a person and as a professional in the future. And they'll be able to make better decisions moving forward because of that.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And that's like, I mean, you asked the question, and that was definitely some of the stuff I struggled with early on. Is like you said, yeah, I mean, I could easily, they ask a question, I could have it resolved and flipped in 2 minutes, but it's, what does that do? That doesn't help them at all. And I doubt my buddy at the farm sees this, but the reason
you don't know how many viewers I have. Yeah.
Well, no. He barely, he don't even know how to order an Uber ride with his phone. He is an old school farmer. He uses the ball but the reason I became a broker and you know, really enjoy it. And you've heard from other people, I failed my way to success, right? Like you've learned all these things through failure. And that's another, like when I first started being a leader and being a managing broker here at Simply Home, I can recall all those days at the farm with my buddy. And the reason I'm getting to this is I would have a question about something, especially because it's not my farm, it's his farm, it's his equipment, it's his money, it's his land. I would ask him a question about doing something, whether it be, hey, how do you want me to, you know, secure this barbed wire, or, you know, how do you want me, you know, weld this gate right here or something. And I can recall all the time, especially when it's hot and 95 degrees in Tennessee, and, you know, you're asking a question and he just gets frustrated. And then he just said, oh, just move. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. It would drive me nuts. And like, we would almost get in fist fights over it. And I'm like, dude, I'm just asking you, I'm not asking you to do it for me. I just want to make sure I'm doing it the right way. Like, show me so I don't have to ask you again when this comes up again. And so I translate that into real estate, where it's like, yeah, I could easily, you know, just fix it or type you a sentence and fix your contract within seconds. But what is that really going to help you? Because I've been on the other side. I've been in those shoes, you know. So it's that was, you know, really challenging. Not only that, but it's like, I literally asked him, like, hey, what's going to be the best way for you to understand this? You know, is it me just put in blanks and you fill in the blanks, or is it like, hey, do we need to back it on, you know, to the beginning and build our way back up? You know, how are you going to learn this best? What is going to be the most beneficial for you to learn the answer to the question that you're asking and fully receive it and understand it to where, you know, you don't have to ask this again. You know, that's goes back to like what I was talking about, the different personalities, you know, everybody kind of learns differently, you know?
Yeah. And it's asking questions. And I think that's something that I had to really kind of learn how to do versus the high D personality. All right, here's the answer. On to the next. Asking questions. And it's not unlike fatherhood either. You know, and we'll kind of transition into that. But it's very similar with leadership. Fatherhood would be so easy for an agent to come or for your child to come up and ask you a question, and here's the answer. Or like you said, ask the question and like, hey, I'm already busy or stressed or it's hot or things are going on, and get frustrated and, hey, I'll just do it. And instead, one of the things that I'll try to do with my agents or with my kids is say, well, what do you think? And, you know, I already know the answer, so I want to know what you think it is. And because my answer is just my answer based off my experience and what I know. Your answer may have a whole lot of other information that's in it. And so I want to know what you think. And they may say, well, this is what I think. And I could say that's an answer. And here's maybe some other things you'd want to consider, and kind of talking through those things. Because then you teach them how to think.
Right.
Teach them how to be independent. You want your agents too. They're independent contractors. You want them to be independent contractors and not dependent contractors. Same thing with your kids. You know, yours is one right now. And so less consulting that's going on and more demands, I assume. But, you know, as they get older, like my son's about to turn 9. My daughter's 11. She has no problem telling me what she thinks. But making sure it's, well, what do you think? You know, when they come up and say, you know, this happened, or this came up, or this person said this, or this person said that, or, you know, here's a scenario that I'm running into. Well, what do you think? And then just kind of talking through it, because then you're teaching independent thinkers. And you know, eventually, I'm not going to be there to be able to give them the answer. You know, they go off to college or whatever they do after they move out of the house. You know, I don't want them to say, hey, I'm at the grocery store and I've got this absolutely minute hurdle to jump over. What do I do? I want it to be just you're a thinker. I want to train you to think. And so I think that's leadership. I think it's parenthood. there's a lot of things that go into it. So let's jump into that. Let's jump into parenthood. Being a girl dad, how's that going? You're 1-year-old. You had a nice year prior of living and learning. How's that going?
Oh man, it's amazing. I think not to dive too deep into external topics, but I mean I'm a big believer in the Lord and stuff, and I think it was meant to be, right? The Lord blessed me with being a girl dad. I think I needed it because I think I was, I have a lot of I guess like guy centric qualities. It's a nice humbling experience,
isn't it? Wait till they get older.
yeah, it's a nice humbling experience. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I literally have a tattoo with all my buddies. I don't know if you can see it says "the boys" right here. So that's one of my tattoos. So
nice.
Having a girl is amazing, and it really shows you how life is so fragile. But so beautiful too. And I mean, just teaches you and shows you a softer side of the world that, as a guy, it's just like, rub some, you fall, rub some dirt on it, oh, you're sad. Don't be sad.
Don't cry.
Be a man. Yeah. You don't cry, oh, you're hungry. Oh, you're a man. You can go without, it just, all that hardcore, grunge mentality that, a lot of times gets really publicized or thrown in our face as men and guys growing up and boys, having a girl kind of shows you like a different side of life and, how fragile and how beautiful it can be. And, but I mean, the number one thing is, and as like just seeing that smile, come from her and those eyes, like it just, man, there's nothing that compares. Nothing that compares.
Really not. And you become a standard, right? Like you're it. And, kids are watching it at all times. And as she gets older, if you want proof of that, just say a bad word in the truck one time and see how many times that one word gets repeated over and over whenever you don't think they're listening. But they're watching, they're listening, they're trying to figure out, okay, I heard you say this while you were on the phone with a client, or I saw how you treated this person, whether good or bad. And, watching. And then, whenever they're getting older and they're going to have other males in their lives, they're going to judge, even though it won't maybe be consciously, subconsciously, they're going to weigh that off of, okay, this is my experience with the male that's in my life the most, which is my dad, or a sibling, like my daughter's got Carter as well. But like, here's my track record with males, and this is what I expect them to be. Right. And so it's a pretty high calling for that. And I think just like yourself, man, whenever I found out we were having a girl first, I was like, what in the heck am I supposed to do about this? And zero experience in this world. And I think it was really good. And I think it's exactly what I needed. I think God knew that. I grew up on a farm as well. And my dad, Marine. And so you can imagine, Marine mentality on a farm. Sure. And, with two boys. And it was very much like you said, like rub some dirt on it. What are you crying about? Like, they were great parents, but they raised two strong, tough boys. And so I think, if I would have had a boy first, probably would have overdone it a little bit. And just wanting to be that, 18-year-old boy at 4 and having a girl first, I think softened me up a little bit in that aspect. And I think it shows through with my son. I'm still hard on him. I'm still his coach for football and, all these different sports that he's doing and very much like, hey man, like you're going to have to suck it up, dude. Like let's form a little callus here. And, but then also kind of understanding a little bit more because I've already had that practice with my daughter. And so I think it was very much needed, or else I could have probably taken it a little over of what maybe would have been needed for sure.
Oh, for sure. And I love the way you said the standard. You're exactly right. We set the standard, and I think that's also another thing. Why I was blessed. With being a girl dad up front. I told you, like I said, I didn't grow up with a dad, so I can definitely say I was a mama's boy because I had no choice, right? So defending my mother and obviously I didn't have to, but you know what I mean, and having a sister to defend and just being the man of the household, having to learn that so quickly, being able to help support them, nurture and protect them, it's translated, in a very fun way and easy way with my daughters, is being that. So, knowing that if I can be that, like you said, that standard, we just talked about that because that's exactly what I just took my wife out. Like I said, our anniversary is a week later. We just did like a little staycation. We went to Nashville for the night, got a hotel room, a wonderful, very fancy dinner, just kind of, just us two core, try to, keep up the, what they say, date your spouse, and that's something we talked about at dinner, is like, I want to, be that standard and that way, hopefully Sailor's first boyfriend or experience or dates, that she's not going to settle for anything less than, something spectacular that she deserves, So.
Oh, 100%. And unfortunately, I mean, Sailor, my daughter, Katie, they probably will at some point, right? Like
right.
there's going to be some turds out there. Like there's just, they have to kind of test out, like just like with, somebody used the analogy the other day. They're telling, because I was like, hopefully she doesn't date any like just losers. And they're like, oh, you 100% will.
I was like, 100% will.
Why do you say that? And they're like, man, do you ever try any food that you don't like and you knew you weren't going to like it and you tried it anyway? It's like, yeah. And they're like, that's how it goes.
So, I never thought about it like that. That's so good. I don't like that, but it's so good.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, well, and sometimes you just got to check that box and know, like, okay, I was right. That's fine. And
that goes back to being an independent thinker, right? And letting them, and that's another thing that's been huge, and I'm sure, especially, with your older kids and, is letting them be independent thinkers and letting them make mistakes controllable from a distance, right? Like you're not going to make them, you're not going to let them crash and burn, but, like you said, maybe, you might be in the corner, but, if they're dating a turd, you might be in the corner watching, but, they got to learn a mistake or something, I don't know.
And you need that. And that's life experience. My mom used to use the term, give them enough rope to hang themselves with and then reel them back in. And
I've heard that many times. Absolutely.
It's that same mentality, and it's going to be tough. And there's actually a little boy that, my daughter, very athletic. She's very cute. And so, of course the boys are going to, like her, whether they know it's like, or like if they just want to hang out with her because she's fun and athletic.
Mm-hmm.
But, there's one that was just hanging around too much, and he's one necessarily great kid from what I've heard. And so,
according to Reddit or the Google reviews.
Right. Yeah. His Yelp was not necessarily a 5-star. And my wife was like, you need to do something about this. I was like, I will. And there's one time.
That's even worse. You're put on the pedestal by the mom too.
I know.
Yeah. You're really under the gun.
Well, she also knows, like Sammy, she's a strong, independent, tough woman herself. And so she knows when to tap in Dad. And it wasn't necessarily to that point yet. But there's one time they showed up kind of uninvited to the house, and they didn't mean any harm, but it was also like, hey man, I'm good. I don't like this. And we kind of drew the line, but then the line was crossed a couple times. And then, she's like, I can't believe you haven't really said anything yet. And I was like, I will. And then there's one time I just had to basically lay down the law and never saw him again. And we were good. And because Katie she was trying to be nice and she didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And we've had those talks, but then those are the times where, like we talked about before, where you have to just kind of sit back and watch and learn. It's like riding a bike. Like sometimes you got to skid your knees up a little bit just to know, okay, I don't want to do that again. I need to ride this accordingly, and, learning by making mistakes and falling and things like that. So and again, like I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. We are going to make mistakes as well and be like, I probably could have handled that a little bit better. I got on to Carter. It was over the weekend at football practice, and I thought he was whining, but because I made some corrections, and I thought he was, getting a little emotional because I was making corrections. And we have this conversation about being coachable and taking criticism, not as somebody being upset, but because they're trying to make you better. And I thought he was whining about that, and actually he hurt his ankle. And so I didn't know. And I just made him like sit out to the side. I'm like, dude, come on, man, like toughen up, and kind of gave him that mentality. And then I found out that he had actually kind of hurt his ankle. And so I came up to him. And I think sometimes as a man, it's hard to apologize for making mistakes like this. And especially, to the kids, because you don't want them to let you, the first reaction is like, I don't want them to know that I was wrong. And really, instead, that's the perfect time to teach them that it's okay to be wrong, but you need to apologize. And so I
correct it. Yeah. Admit and correct. And like you said, work towards a better goal of next time. Right.
Yeah, I told him, I was like, hey, buddy, I thought that you were complaining because of me correcting you. I did not know that you had hurt your foot. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled at you like that. I apologize. Are you okay? Just kind of basically let him know, like, hey, Dad makes mistakes too. And this was one of them. And we're going to move on. Neither one of us is going to hate each other for it. It's all good. We've moved on. It's a new day. We're good to go. But having that as a teachable moment for myself as well. So,
yeah. Well, hey, let me ask you this. I know obviously it's your podcast, so I love to ask. I mean, literally when we had our date night the other night, I was getting a drink at the hotel bar, and there was a guy out there, and he was talking about how he was actually from Indianapolis, of all things, and he said he had 6 kids, 4 daughters, and I was asking him some girl dad advice. So you kind of mentioned you told me your story there. So how old did you say she is again? 11, is that what you said?
11, should be 12 in April.
12 in April. Okay. So what is your take, or, because I've talked about this numerous times already with my wife. How do you feel about the best friend versus dad, like being their best friend versus being their dad? Because obviously right there, I mean, you alluded to your wife's like, well, this happened once already. You're going to do something, and so you're like, yeah, no. And I can understand that. Like I'm planning something. I'm kind of watching the results, how it goes. And obviously it reached a point where you did, need to take action. But I mean, how do and depending on, I'm sure your daughter is fantastic, but I mean, even the most fantastic people can get upset. And, so how do you kind of balance trying to be, a best friend versus a dad, or, because she might have been upset with you that day, so, but at the end of the day, I mean, you think, and I mean, you and your wife probably both believe that that's the right thing to do for them. So, I mean, and that's what we got to do as parents, right? So I think that's going to be kind of the hardest thing for me. The whole reason I'm asking, is kind of trying to be on their good side, but, also be their parent, ensure that they know you're the father figure and the mom.
Well, I think there's layers, and I think about this in a lot of different facets of my life. There's all these layers. There's nothing that's just one thing. And like, for instance, I'm a lot of things. Like, I am a husband, I'm a son, I'm a friend, I'm a leader, I'm all these different things, a father. And I am 100% a father first for my daughter than a best friend, right? But I'm also her best friend, right? Like, really, if we're being serious, my wife is her best friend. Like, they are so tight. I am maybe a close second, but if between the two of us, she's picking Sammy for sure. But before that, and you kind of talked on the date night, is even before I was a father, I'm a husband. And you have to be a husband first. And like, my wife is my best friend, and the kids know that. And I think it's not in that moment where you're going to earn that or receive that. It's built up, and it kind of talks about, it's kind of like what we talked about before with you become the standard. And if you don't walk the walk, and you aren't being that standard that you're trying to preach, all, 23 hours of the day, that 1 hour where you're trying to be the preacher, all of a sudden isn't going to land very well. If I'm a turd to her mom, not very respectful, don't keep my word on the things that I say that I'm going to do for the kids, that maybe they see me at work or on the phone, being sneaky instead of a person of integrity, then if I'm trying to tell her what's right and wrong, is that really going to land? And even if it's subconsciously, versus, hey, Katie, listen, we joke around all the time. We wrestle around all the time. Like, we're buddies. We have a great relationship. And we give each other crap too. Like, we really kind of push each other for fun. Like, and it's kind of our relationship, but I'm really serious right now. This is not happening. And I kind of use the phrase sometimes because, hey, like, I want you to learn to negotiate. We negotiate so much in our lives, not just in business, but like you negotiate all sorts of things. And if it's a time for negotiation, I will let you know. And this is not that time. And until you're 18 plus and are your own person, and I'm no longer technically responsible for you, I'm happy to consult with you. But at the end of the day, I'll be making the decisions. Your mom and I will be. And so just kind of having that and knowing that. And that's not the first time that you're going to hear that. That's not the first time you're going to feel that. But this is a reminder that at the end of the day, your best interests all around, not just for this random Tuesday, is my responsibility. And them seeing and kind of reiterating like, hey, I don't expect you to like it, and that's okay, but you're going to respect it. And I'm happy to hear anything that you think that I need to hear to potentially change my mind. I'm not just saying it to say it. Like, I'm trying to make the best decision possible. I'm trying to lead you and this family. So let's talk about it, and not just shutting it down. Hey, because I said so, and because that's easier and things like that. So that's kind of how, hey, we're still friends. I'm not mad at you. I'm just saying, no boys on the trampoline. So
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Well, it's kind of like just like business too. I mean, it's almost it's so funny talking about it out loud. How business is virtually the same thing. Some of these newer agents and experience, they come to me with a problem, and I give them what I think is the solution. But it's like, hey, please feel like you said, open the conversation up. Feel free to change my mind, negotiate, and like you said, and I think that's one thing of a powerful leader is being able to be just as great as a listener as they are a speaker, or direction giver, whatever that may be, is to be able to listen, take in advice, because I've learned so much as a leader too.
Constantly.
Is although, like you said, I could easily say, it's my way, the highway. This is what we're doing, but I don't. This is what I think we should do. What do you think? And just like you said, and obviously we're not going to treat our daughters like that. What do you think in that lot? But I mean, it's sort of the same thing. It's like, hey, this is, you're more than welcome to try to, I welcome and value your opinion, but obviously as your dad, and your mom, we're going to have the best intentions for you and be the caretaker for you. But, kind of the same thing in business. It's funny, talking about it out loud right now, that the similarities.
There's a lot of them: business, leadership, parenthood, and that's kind of where the podcast came from. It's like putting together a network of folks that run through the same things that you and I do, whether it's with a 1-year-old or an 11-year-old, or I've had guests that have adult children, and now that's a totally different leadership style, right? And not very long from now, my kids are going to be young adults, and they're going to be off on their own, and I need them not only to have the experience and the reps of being able to make decisions, because I think this generation that we're seeing right now is having a hard time with that, because a lot of decisions were made for them, whether intentionally or unintentionally, and so they're having a hard time.
Not to mention AI, taking away critical thinking and stuff.
They're not having to do that, and they weren't raised on a farm where they're having to make decisions, and those can either be costly or harmful, and we need to make sure that we're making good ones. It's a different environment. So how do we lead them in this environment to where instead of AI inhibiting them, they're able to use it as a tool to better their lives, leading people in a way that's not out of fear, but of abundance and giving, and making sure that you're creating that environment. So then whenever they're going out, I try to tell them, I'm like, listen, you're a leader and you're different, and leaders lead, and sometimes leadership is scary, and that's okay. And what we tell the kids is that being brave is not being fearless. Being brave is being scared and doing it anyway. And so having that mentality and kind of planting those seeds now while they're young, so then whenever they're off on their own, it's just, repetition, and to be able to do that. And then whenever they're, with their own spouses, and hopefully finding a partner that is, I use the term partner because you're just like you have a business partnership, you have a relationship partnership. So then you're going to be leading your own family, and they're going to do things differently than we did. And that's okay. We don't have to agree with it, but making sure you're at least planting those seeds. And there's a huge correlation between that and business and leadership and all of that. So.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the last things, talking about it here, you talk about, the AI and get rid of critical thinking. And, even as young as Sailor is just turning 1, again, her mother is a fantastic mother. She's a nurse. So, it's always super nice. And she's a very critical thinker. We're already trying to teach Sailor, like, she'll look at me in the high chair and I know she wants her milk. I know she wants more food, but we're trying to teach her to tell us, hey, what do you want? What would you like? Tell dad, what would you like? And then I mean, she'll straight up just look you at,
Yeah.
And it's like, that's yep. Tell me, and it's like, we're trying to, not, I could have easily just been like, here you go. Here it is.
Yeah. Here it is. I already knew.
Which I already knew, but same thing, it's like, okay, what do you want? How do you, so we're trying.
Well, you're doing a good job, man. It sounds like you guys are both doing a great job. I know that we're kind of coming up on time and going a little bit over. Any advice or anything that you would give? You're a young dad yourself, and you're always learning, whether you got a 1-year-old or an 18-year-old. But any advice for maybe a young dad getting into real estate that's trying to balance hustle and home and trying to be a good dad while also being a good business owner? Any advice that you'd give them?
Yeah, I think the number one most solid piece of advice I could give that I think is going to translate all the way up until, I leave this earth 80, hopefully, Lord willing, 80, 90, 100 years old. When it comes to business and hustle and real estate and family is my number one piece of advice would be to focus on yourself. Mm-hmm. Focus on yourself. Take care of your own mental capacity, physical capacity, spiritual. Because if you're not at 100%, you're not going to be able to give 100% to your business, your family, obviously, your friends, anything. So, everything can be a, not necessarily a downer, but can harm, can take you down, whether it be business can fall through and take you down. The kid, wakes up 2 or 3 times a night just when you think you had it down, and you start losing sleep literally, and it can just bring you down. You thought you were, in a good way. She slept through, the first 2, Monday and Tuesday, she slept through the night, and you're like, all right, we're on a good way. Then Wednesday, she wakes up 2 or 3 times. Your friends can do this and that, and then they can let you down, and things are going to happen that you can't control. But what the number one thing that you can control is yourself. Yep. And your mental fortitude, your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health. That's one thing I've been trying to focus on ever since Sailor was born, and even before, is being more in tune with myself, both mental, physical, and clarity, and all that. Is because I've noticed that the days that are not good in those realms translates into the business world, translates into the family world. You get into it with the wife, and nobody's happy with that, or like you said, even let's say that, like, I've gotten frustrated, and I realized, like, I'm really frustrated because I haven't taken care of myself, got good sleep, or I've ate bad, just anything in my mental health. Like, I need to do some stretching, maybe take a run or something, just because something else happened from work. So that would be my number one piece of advice, is to focus on yourself. That way you can give 100% to the remaining business, family, leadership, all that good stuff.
That's such good advice. While you're saying that, 2 things popped into my head, and then I'll kind of close this out. But whenever you're talking about taking care of yourself, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Nope. And
100%.
I'm very focused on money and opportunity and all these different things. It's not necessarily to have a large dollar amount in the bank account. It's because, man, I can't give what I don't have. And the more I've got, the more I can give. The more energy I've got, the more energy I can give other people. The more health I've got, the more everything, right? And so can't pour from an empty cup. And you have to make sure that your storm does not get your kids wet. And there's plenty of times whenever you've got a tough day, or maybe you and your spouse are in a disagreement, or there's things that are going on out of your control that can easily cause you to become frustrated. And it's really that you cause yourself to become frustrated, because nothing else can determine your emotions. And making sure that your storm does not get your kids wet. I will not go in the house on the phone. I'll park sometimes they'll say, hey, how come we just sit out in the driveway?
Sit in the driveway for 20 minutes. Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't seen you all day, and I don't want the first thing that you see is my finger up in the air because I'm on the phone. And so 100%. I'm going to finish up a call, and then I'm going to come inside. I'm going to give you a big hug, and we can wrestle. But I don't want to come in and give you that Heisman pose because I'm on the phone. And so those are 2 things there. But Chase, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy dude in a lot of different areas. And so thank you for spending a little time with us. And We'll love to have you back on at a later date. Just kind of
Sure.
pick your brains on some different things as we both continue to grow in business and in life. But it was really great talking to you, sir.
Absolutely, Jason. I appreciate the opportunity, brother. Likewise, and it was fantastic chat with you, and many blessings to your business and your family moving forward, brother.
Thank you, sir. Until next time, keep balancing hustle and home, and we'll see you later.